official categories, I'll be honest with you, but we got a lot of questions on drug policy, and maybe even more
I think
relevant.
we did last year, too.
You know, there are a lot of folks online who want to know your thoughts on it, and I think with Prop 19 in California last fall, it's even more on people's minds. Right. Here's the top voted question in that area.
Good evening, Mr. President. My name is Mackenzie Allen. I'm a retired law enforcement officer and member of LEAP, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. The so-called war on drugs has been waged for 40 years at a cost of $1 trillion and thousands of lives, with nothing to show for it but increased supplies, cheaper drugs, and a dramatic increase in violence associated with the underworld drug market. Sir, do you think there will or should come a time for us to discuss the possibility of legalization, regulation, and control of all drugs, thereby doing away with the violent criminal market as well as a major source of funding for international terrorism? Thank you so much for your time, Mr. President.
Well, I think this is an entirely legitimate topic for debate. I am not in favor of legalization. I am a strong believer that we have to think more about drugs as a public health problem. When you think about other damaging activities in our society, smoking, drunk driving, making sure you're wearing seat belts. Typically, we've made huge strides over the last 20, 30 years by changing people's attitudes. And on drugs, I think that a lot of times we have been so focused on arrests, incarceration, interdiction, that we don't spend as much time thinking about how do we shrink demand. And this is something that, within the White House, we are looking at very carefully. As I said,
any ideas?
Well, some of this requires shifting resources, being strategic. Where does it make sense for us to really focus on interdiction? We have to go after drug cartels that not only are selling drugs, but are also creating havoc, for example, along the U.S.-Mexican border. But are there ways that we can also shrink demand and in some cities, for example, it may take 6 months for you to get into a drug treatment program.
Right.
Well, if you're trying to kick a habit and somebody says to you, well, come back in 6 months, that's pretty discouraging.
Yeah.
And so we've got to do more in figuring out how can we get some resources on that end of it and make sure that, and also look at what we're doing when we have nonviolent first-time drug offenders. Are there ways that we can make sure that we're steering them into the straight and narrow without automatically resorting to incarceration, drug courts, mechanisms like that? So these are all issues that are worth exploring and worth a serious debate.